Jenny from the Sewing Palace in Helena, Montana, and I'm here to show you some fun projects from a company called byAnnie. They write patterns for bags and knickknacks, and they have wonderful products to help you out with your sewing. They make some zippers by the yard, which is right here, and they come in the most luscious colors. There's 4 yards of zippers, lots of pulls. You can make whatever length you want. The pulls are very easy to put on. They also have zippers that are either double slide or single slide in different increments. They have bright colored mesh that you can use so you can see what's inside your bag. You're going to see that here in a few minutes. They have elastic, fold over elastic that's very soft that coordinates in the same colors. And they have a product called Soft and Stable, which is a very nice interfacing that you can use that makes your bag stand upright or have nice body but not be very, very stiff. It's very resilient. And they have great patterns. I'm just going to show you a few of them. One of them is called Take a Stand, and it's this bag here and here out of the Tula Pink fabrics. And it's also a great organizer bag. Here's one of the zippers with an outside pocket. And then you have organization on the inside with mesh. You have an over-the-shoulder handle. There's hardware that you can attach so that you can use D-rings and hardware pockets on there as well. And then it comes in a larger size, which is up here, which is an awesome over-the-shoulder bag that you could use. And the other fun thing is that it will hold up a product called Running with Scissors. So this is the pattern for Running with Scissors. It's got a little handle at the top, zippers on the outside for organization, and then when you open it up, it has way more pockets and organization. So all these little pockets will hold all your knickknacks. Here's some of the mesh so that you can put things in there. You have elastic here to hold thread spools, pens. You could also put your beauty products in here. And so you're using some vinyl, some fabric, zippers, elastic. And then the other cool thing about this bag is you take a stand and then you set it over top like so, and you can set it right at your sewing station so that you can easily access all of your tools and keep them organized, and that would be awesome. So that is Take a Stand and Running with Scissors, which are the fun bags there. And then there's also a bag that we have that's called Hang In There, and it's a bag that goes on the side of your bed. It has a piece of fabric on the top and it tucks underneath your mattress, and then the front hangs off the front of the bag or the bed, and then you can put all your knickknacks in there. You can put your chapstick, your phone, and all your fun things next to the bed, and that's called Hang In There. They also have another bag that's called the Peacekeeper, and that's this little bag with some mesh. It opens with the zipper on the top. You can use some coordinating fabric, and then it has a handle that you can carry it around. It's got a cute title to it because it's called Peacekeeper. It's a cute little project bag. So I'm going to show you a few things that are helpful when you're going to make this bag, and a couple tips. So there's a few tools that are helpful. You'll want some 505 spray, and this is to bond some of the layers together just temporarily so they don't shift on you. You can also use a product called Wonder Clips. When you're using multiple layers or you're using vinyl and you don't want to poke a hole in it with a pin, these clips work great for putting multiple layers together, and you just clip your layers and hold them in place, and they're very easy to use. You also need something to mark some lines, maybe for quilting, some scissors. And then this is a product from Creative Grids. It's a circle template, but what's nice about that template is you can round the corners of your bags pretty easily. So you'll see on this bag it's rounded, on this bag it's rounded, and you can get the most even measurement when you're using the circle tool. You can line up the sides and mark it and cut it, and it has anywhere from a tiny, tiny 1/2 inch up to a 3-inch circle all in one template. So this is a nice template to use for rounding the corners. All right, well, we'll get started on the Peacekeeper bag. Stay tuned. Now I'm ready to show you some tips and tricks for making the Peacekeeper bag. So to get started, you'll need a couple of things. We're going to do the bias binding first. So the bias binding is going to go around the edge of the bag, and what you do is you start with a 13.5 inch square. You cut that square diagonally from point to point. This edge here is the bias edge. when you go to sew it back together, you take this edge and sew it here. And you're going to sew that line along there. After you sew it, you'll have a piece that looks like this. So we've sewn it, and when you press that seam, you'll want to press it open so it lays nice and flat. Then you will cut strips out of this. So I'll rotate this to show you how those strips are cut. Here is that bias edge, and this line represents where you will be cutting the 2 1/4 inch strips. When you cut them, you will have strips that look like this. And you will join those strips together end on end. And when you start that strip, I'll show you, you'll have a strip that looks like this. And then you'll have another strip that you'll need to join up to it. So when you join those 2 strips together, you'll flip them over, right sides together, and you will want to sew 1/4 inch along this edge. When you come in for your 1/4 inch, you really want to make sure your start point is right in that V, and when it comes off the other side, it's right off of the V. When you get done sewing it, you'll open it up and it should form a straight line, and you'll press that open. And then, once you have a nice long strip, you'll press it in half, wrong sides together, and then I rolled it onto a cork, so I would be ready to use that when I get to my bag. Where it lives in the bag is along the edge. You will line up the raw edges, you'll sew it on and wrap it over. Or you can sew it to the back and wrap it to the front. But on these curves, you really need to pull it and stretch it so that it will form nicely on the curve. That's why you need the bias. So let me show you a couple other things that you will need for the bag. All right, so you'll need to collect a couple pieces for the Peacekeeper bag. You'll need a zipper, 24 inches or longer, and it calls for a single slide. You could use a double slide. You will need some mesh. You will need some fabric, 3 fat quarters in fact, and then you will need some soft and stable, which that's what this is here. And I have cut the pieces already for my bag. So one piece was the binding, which I already showed you. Another piece is for the handle. So this I'm going to put the handle. You'll also need an interfacing called decor bond. So this is a interfacing that adds body to your bag or your fabric, and it makes it a little bit stiffer. It has a shimmery side, and that is iron-on glue. So it would get ironed to the wrong side of your fabric, and you would press it, and you usually want to press it. I press it so that the glue is facing up and my fabric is covering it, and then you hold it for about 5 to 10 seconds until you get a nice bond. And I've just pressed just this corner right here, and I'll pull it back so you can kind of see what happens when you bond those layers. So this piece will end up growing up to be a handle, and when you get ready to, you press it all, you get your decor bond attached, and then that piece will get pressed in half so that it looks like that. So that's the decor bond, that's the wrong side of the fabric. You match the sides to the middle, and then in half again. And then it will still be warm, and if it's still warm and I clip it with these Wonder Clips, when it cools really nicely so that I can sew that. And you will top stitch on each side of that. So that's the handle. The other pieces that you need to cut are pieces for the lining. That's the lining, that's the polka dot hiding underneath the mesh. You'll need a bottom piece, and this piece is actually lined. You won't be able to see it because it's underneath, but it's an orange fabric. And then you also need a piece of fabric that will end up living on the back. So those pieces I have down here, and you will layer those larger ones, which is the lining and the back of the bag, with your soft and stable. So this piece is cut larger. I believe it's about 13 by 18 in the pattern. It's cut larger, and what you do is you lay this out smooth it out, and then you can use this temporary spray. Lift it, spray it just gently so that it holds your layer in place. Flip it over, smooth it out, spray it with the 505 spray, and then make a little quilt sandwich. Then you can quilt that. So I just used a 2-inch grid, and I marked the lines with a friction pen and a ruler. So I marked those lines, and then I sewed on the lines and got my piece quilted. So this is a piece of quilted soft and stable. The cool thing about the lines, if you look right here, I still have a little bit of pen mark showing, and when you use an iron with a friction pen, you iron it and the mark goes away. So voila, your magic marker has went away. So then after you've quilted it, you'll trim that piece down to a smaller size. You'll then need the pieces for the front. So when you're getting that prepared, you'll need some mesh and zippers. I'll show you how to get the mesh ready. This is a piece of mesh and then a double or a single slide zipper. I have the zipper facing right side up right now, and the mesh is underneath. And the Wonder Clips work beautiful for this because I've just flipped it over, so now the zipper is right side down and the mesh is laying right on top. What you're going to do is you're going to sew 1/4 inch and unclip it as you get there, and then after it's sewn, you'll flip this over and you'll top stitch it. So you'll end up with a piece that looks like this. Now I used pink thread on this one. It is going to be super hard to see my stitching, but there's no raw edges of the mesh. It's been encased in that seam, similar to a French seam. So you'll have a piece of mesh with a piece of zipper attached. Then you will attach some decor bond to a piece of fabric, and that will live down here. So that's what I'm going to use here. This piece has already been adhered to decor bond, and you lay that along that edge, and that also gets lined. So this is going to go right sides together like so. Let me pull this piece out so that makes a little bit better sense. So I have this right side mesh and then right side, and then you'll line up all these edges, and then you'll Wonder Clip it. This is another nice time to use those Wonder Clips so that you can hold all those layers together, and that really holds it nicely in place. So you just clip your whole way down. We'll just do a couple clips. Get your edges lined up. And then when you're done sewing that with 1/4 inch seam, this will flip out, and so will the lining. It will flip down when you're all done. Hard to show you here, but you get the idea, right? All right, so once that's all pressed and laying flat, that'll get laid on your project. And for right now, I'm going to pull the lining out because I'm not going to iron it just yet, but you'll get the visual here in a second. So this would be like so, and that would be like so. And then you will square these pieces up so that they're the same size, and then you'll curve the corners. So when you get those ready to curve and they're all squared up, you'll use this cool little gadget, and I'm going to show you right here. So on these circles, you can choose how big you want your curve to be, and you will use a marking utensil to mark a curve. So if I wanted to use a circle this one's 2 3/4, you can line the template up to each edge of your fabric, and then you'll mark that curve, then you'll sew right on that line and then trim away the excess. And then you'll obviously do that with this piece and all the 4 corners. You'll attach your bias binding, and you will have a lovely Peacekeeper bag. Thanks for joining us. Stop by the store and see some of these wonderful byAnnie's products. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.